Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read Terry the Pterodactyl, the Invisible Woman, A Gift from Dad, the Philosopher's Stone in the Graveyard of the Immortals, and the Unbreakable Contract. This one we're going to be starting with Fluid Cannon, and we're going to definitely be reading Baba Yaga, and Vector, and the Red Pool, and the Serrated Lawn. So, so far this episode sounds like it's going to be a combination of weird and ominous. Ominous isn't the word I wanted, but anyway, let's start with the Fluid Cannon. Okay, it immediately started with 1, so that's a good sign. SCP-351-1 is to be maintained on a standard optical disc stored in the Site-19 archives. Unauthorized individuals who view the file or listen to an infected individual recounting false memories induced by 1 are to be given Class A amnestics as immediately and held under observation until Foundation staff clears the individual. If this is not possible due to extenuating circumstances, the individual or individuals are to be terminated by any means available. Personnel under observation are to be held in a soundproof room and attended only by staff wearing sound-canceling earmuffs. Under no circumstances are security or medical personnel to remove their ear protection or read anything which has been written by 2 at any time. The infected personnel, 2, are to be contained in a soundproof room sufficient to house all members comfortably and allowed to speak freely to one another. They are to be encouraged to discuss their recollections of past events with each other. All testing and experimentation is to be carried out by D-class examiners who have been instructed to ask specific questions to the subject and record the responses on paper. Written information does not transfer the the idea. The mimetic agent is extremely virulent when delivered verbally or through audio recordings. Disposable dudes used in any experimentation regarding 351 are to be terminated immediately following the experiment in order to prevent the spread of infection. Any available method of execution is viable, but the use of firearms is suggested for efficiency and cost effectiveness. All researchers, medical staff, and security personnel are required to carry a dose of Class A amnestics sufficient for their body weight at all times when involved with 351 in any way. Okay then. 1 is a virulent mimetic agent in the form of an ASCII plaintext text file, which causes individuals to associate with one another to remember events which never took place. An individual infected with the meme will remember taking part in events that never happened, while multiple individuals infected by the same person or associating with that person post-infection will remember taking part in the same events. Infected personnel are to be designated 351-2. Current testing shows normal mental stability aside from believing in fictional events. When an individual is questioned on his belief, he generally shows similar levels of emotional upset as a normal individual would if his memory was called into question. Infected persons are rather vocal about their new memories and will gladly talk at length about them to anyone, infected or not. Whether this is an aspect of the meme itself or if simply finding the subjects interesting is as of yet unknown and bears further study. Individuals with different fictional memories will intermingle memories. Conflicting false memories within a group of 2, data expunged. When a sufficiently large group of 2 are allowed to interact daily, they will gradually come to share their false memories sufficiently that an entire false reality is formed. Oh. Beliefs about objects or ideas that individuals in the group interact with on a frequent basis are seldom altered, while long-term memory is especially prone to being rewritten. A group of 351-2 sufficiently isolated from the outside world will eventually fill in a fictional reason for their being where they are, false paths for all individuals, and assorted minor details. In essence, an isolated group can alter its remembered version of history entirely. Over time, even disused false memories will be rewritten, or overwritten, resulting in data expunged within the group. Unaffected individuals inserted into an already established group of 2 will generally react negatively for the first month until their own memories are altered by the meme enough to become part of the cohesive group canon. This is due to the uninfected subject having conflicting memories in their relation to the infected. Class A short-term memory amnestics are to be considered an antidote for the extremely recently exposed, but if the infection took place prior to the cutoff point of the amnestic used, reinfection and memory alteration takes place rapidly. Class B and Class C amnestics are of moderate effectiveness in curing an infected individual, albeit with fairly high risk to the patient. Class B are recommended when the time of infection is unknown, or for those individuals that Class A drugs have failed to cure. Class B drugs have a significant case of erasing the memories which contain the agent and all other long-term memory, but anything still held in short-term memory poses a chance for reinfection. Therefore, Class B amnestics should be avoided if at all possible. While they will erase the mimetic agent, the infectee will remain extremely vulnerable to reinfection until he is back to a normal functioning state and has been briefed regarding events transpired. Further testing and research into possible weaponization of one is currently pending administrative approval. I'm really not sure how they would weaponize something like that. That sounds like something you should just not touch at all if possible. So, next up is Baba Yaga. Why is that called fluid cannon? Okay, I was thinking fluid cannon like boom! Fluid cannon like... oh. Okay, so I'm gonna just take a sip of soda. Okay then. Containment areas to remain sealed at all times. No human interaction is allowed with SCP-352. Any and all interaction should be carried out via robot or other remote means. Should human interaction become necessary, full hazmat containment protocol should be observed. In addition, security lines must be attached to all personnel. Should any personnel begin to exhibit erratic behavior, they are to be immediately removed from the containment area via the security lines. Any staff reporting hallucinations after interaction with 352 or her hair are to be immediately placed under quarantine. Any staff working in or around the containment area must submit to random psychological or physical testing. Anyone found to be contaminated will be placed into immediate quarantine. Staff attacked by 352 may only be recovered if they have not been bitten by 352. SCP-352 is to be fed only once weekly. Feeding will be discontinued for 1 month if 352 attacks any personnel. Description: SCP-352 appears to be a very old, emaciated woman of indeterminate age and race. 352 speaks Old Russian, but with an accent and dialect that makes translation very difficult. 352 was extremely unwilling to communicate, with most of the conversations thus far made primarily of threats or statements of revenge. 352 has never identified herself by any name, and due to her aggressive nature, it has been impossible to determine any background information. 352 possesses a level of strength and speed much higher than what should be possible for a person of her perceived age and physical dimensions, and has been shown moving loads in excess of 200 kilograms with little physical strain, and moving at speeds in excess of 70 kilometers per hour. 352 can recover from wounds that would be lethal to a human being, including decapitation and disemboweling. This regeneration can take between several days to several weeks, depending on the severity. Internally, 352 appears to be a normal human woman with muscles, bones, and organs, and a state consistent with advanced age. Testing done on tissue samples has been inconclusive. SCP-352 is capable of growing very thin hair-like strands from any part of her body, apparently at will. These strands can grow several meters in an hour and appear to be at least partially under the control of 352. They have been observed crawling along floors and up walls and other structures. These hairs are clear and nearly invisible to the naked eye and appear to be slightly weaker than standard human hair. The strands are also coated in a thin layer of chemical enzyme identical to the enzyme in the saliva of 352. 352 produces an enzyme that is most concentrated in the saliva and hair, but is present in all bodily tissue of 352. How it is produced and its exact chemical makeup are unknown. This enzyme reacts on contact with human tissue and rapidly attacks the nervous system. Symptoms manifest almost immediately and include hallucinations, euphoria, suppression of cognitive or logical thinking, and suppression of pain receptors. The state persists for several days with mild exposure, and can become permanent with high exposure. Bites from 352 lead to high exposure in 99.9% of cases. 352 appears to subsist on a carnivorous diet, with a strong preference for human flesh. 352 will create a web of hair and wait for prey to become exposed to the enzyme and become more docile. 352 will often remove and eat the limbs of a prey item to prevent it from wandering away, and can take several days to fully devour prey. Humans have been observed to still be in a euphoric state and have no knowledge of the outside world even if they suffer the loss of limbs or other bodily tissue. Notes on recovery. 352 was recovered in southern Russia near the town of Blank. Reports of an enchanted forest and a witch who had caused several deaths were initially ignored until reports of a witch being found and captured began to surface. When Foundation agents responded, the town was found deserted. Several bodies were found in varying states of decomposition, and blood trails appeared to show many more bodies being dragged into the enchanted forest. Recovery teams were dispatched and captured 352, but suffered heavy casualties due to 352's attack and exposure to the enzyme. A large amount of hair was recovered as well, and is believed to be the cause of many exposure incidents, with contact being attributed to spiderwebs or an agent's own hair, and not reported until hallucinations manifested. Notes on behavior. While SCP-352 prefers any type of human flesh over any other type of meat, it appears to have a special propensity for children between the ages of 0 and 2 years old. After observation of highly elevated levels of cooperation and a reduced tendency to attack staff while consuming flesh of this type, a possible alteration in the current diet has been considered. Addendum. The use of SCP-604 and 1680 as a more efficient food source for 352 is currently pending approval from the project director following initial testing. Wonder what those are. Next up is Vector, which is also Keter. Is everything in quotation marks Keter? I don't think everything in quotation marks is Keter. God's not Keter. Lilith, I don't think, was Keter. Guess I'll take another swig of soda before I start doing the Keter voice again. At least as a short entry. Biological Hazard Protocol redacted is to be maintained at all times. Biohazard Threat Level 4. Full hazardous material suits, gloves, and oxygen supply will be required to examine object or subject. A disinfectant shower and decontamination spray are standard procedure before and after contact with 353. The whole containment unit is to be kept underground at negative pressure and hermetically sealed at all times to prevent accidental contamination to the outside area. In the case of containment breach, all affected personnel are to be placed in immediate Biohazard Level 4 quarantine. Termination will be required in the possibility of an outbreak of one or more Class 9 infectious agents. Subject should be fed 3 times a day as standard and provided with the minimal required comfort items: a twin-size bed, a pillow, and a blanket. Clothing in the form of disposable surgical scrubs are to be provided as needed, but requests for items should otherwise be denied. Any outward signs of disease in the subject, such as rashes, boils, vomiting, or sickly pallor or demeanor, should be reported with haste. Since the appearance of symptoms in 353 means a willful effort on her part, subject is to be subdued and questioned. Should SCP-353 need to leave its containment facility for any reason, it is to be fitted with explosive collar, time-release drug delivery service for doses of euphoric substances, and biohazard containment suit. Should 353's suit breach containment, emergency sterilization procedures up to and including incineration of the affected area to be carried out. SCP-353 appears to be a normal human female 26 years old of average physical capacity and average intelligence. Subject has the capacity to siphon infectious viral and bacterial agents from her environment, nurture and store them within her body, and then redistribute them to devastating pandemic effect. 353's mood directly affects the radius of infections recorded, with increased emotional states leading to massively increased potency. 353 seems to be immune to the symptoms of said infectious agents, but just as long as she is only passively storing them. Her active, willful attempts to nurture, manipulate, and change infectious agents while they remain in her body cause her to manifest symptoms ranging from mildly annoying to severe. Symptoms only last as long as she is actively inducing a change in the quantity or quality of an infectious agent, and thus rarely last longer than a few hours. Examinations have shown that the subject is able to store almost any infectious bacterial or viral agents within her body, though she is only capable of changing agents that are able to naturally survive within the human body. As of the writing of this report, 353's blood contains traces of over 1,000 different infectious agents, including HIV, Ebola, Marburg, 67 different strains of the common cold, herpes simplex A, E. coli, cholera, bubonic plague, SARS, and malaria. At least 30% of said infectious agents were previously unknown to the medical community and were possibly endangered by 353 herself, making 353 an invaluable resource. SCP-353 was originally encountered in data expunged South Africa, where she seemed to be deliberately seeking to pick up strains of the Ebola virus. Foundation personnel pursued 353 to Dresden, Germany, where they determined she had successfully contracted Marburg and redistributed said virus to data expunged. Subject was eventually subdued by physical means and taken into Foundation custody with minimal loss of life. To date, her true identity is unknown as she gives no name other than Vector, and refuses to answer any questions about her past. 353 claims to have traveled the Western world seeking greater infections for her collection, When asked why, she would not give a response aside from, "because I can." Initial testing has shown that she is adept at manipulating and changing infectious agents in the bodies of nearby subjects as she is at manipulating them within her own body. She seems to prefer to manipulate diseases within her own body, however, as it grants her full access to the results of her manipulations. Furthermore, her ability to manipulate disease in nearby subjects means it's likely that she is equally capable of curing diseases and dispensing them. On a different note, personnel are reminded to refer to humanoid SCPs by their numerical SCP designation. Should 353 refuse to cooperate, she is to be subdued and punished. We're not here to make her X-Men villain fantasies come true. Given that this girl is a walking time bomb of viruses, I recommend that we trank her, strap her to a table, and give her a massive dose of ribavirin interferon blank cocktail to flush her system. Flush her system? Hell no! Did you know that this girl somehow has the original strain of the 1918 Spanish flu, as well as half a dozen strains of viruses we've never seen? The research possibilities alone! Limited research approved. The embrace of this vector persona, including the fixation on the color black for cosmetic purposes, her might makes right attitude, her desire to infect rather than to cure, and her disregard for human life all signal towards extreme malignant narcissism and psychopathic tendencies. Her obvious pleasure in manipulating and controlling diseases within herself despite the often painful symptoms are also quite troubling. Requesting approval for psychological examination, counseling, or therapy may be useful in reducing her difficult demeanor. Okay then. So, that makes sense that she's Keter because she's human and can pretty much just kill anybody whenever she wants. Presumably by just breathing. She's like, hey you, what? Dead. Now it's time for the red pool and then the serrated lawn, which both sound probably Euclid, if not safe. Because I imagine a pool and a lawn aren't really going anywhere. How wrong I've been. I guess this is just the Keter episode plus Euclid. Keter episode special guest star Euclid. So, and this one is longer. Due to SCP-354's immobile nature, Area 354 has been built around it. 354 houses forces and D-Class personnel prepared to deal with threats emerging from SCP-354, as well as researchers studying it and its properties. For their own safety, no on-site personnel are to approach 354 at any time. Direct interaction with it is permitted only for the purpose of research to eliminate 354 and must be approved by O5 personnel. Area 354 was constructed to contain and neutralize any and all further threats emerging from it. At the heart of Area 354, a 20-foot wall of concrete reinforced with data expunged has been constructed around 354 to prevent emerging entities from escaping into the area at large. High-speed motion detection cameras are placed atop the wall looking down into the pool, and armed guards can easily shoot down into the enclosure from catwalks placed above the pool. SCP-354 is a pool of red liquid discovered in northern Canada. The liquid is of a consistency similar to that of human blood, hence the colloquial name blood pond, but is not of a biological nature. The pool does not have definite banks. Soil mixes with the liquid until at a certain point there's more soil than liquid, and the ground is mostly solid. The liquid becomes denser as one descends deeper into the pool. If the pool has a bottom, it has yet to be reached. Periodically, entities emerge from the pool and attempt to escape from the enclosure. Thus far, nearly all creatures emerging from 354 have been extremely hostile and highly dangerous. SCP-354 is believed to have been first discovered in blank by survivors of a plane crash, who encountered 354 by chance. It had developed into a local urban legend long before Foundation personnel arrived to deal with the threat. After locating the source of the legend, SCP personnel set up Watch Station Epsilon 38 to monitor the pool and to deter future travelers from finding it. It was classified as Euclid until its properties were further discovered. At 14:03 hours on blank, an unidentified entity emerged from it. Contact with Watch Station Epsilon 38 was lost. Mobile Task Force Blank was dispatched to deal with the entity and were eventually successful. All personnel at Watch Station Epsilon 38 were found dead. Area 354 was subsequently constructed to contain 354. Document 354-1A, partial log of entities to have emerged from 354 prior to event 354-20. 1. Original entity which destroyed Watch Station Epsilon 38, resembled a giant bat, neutralized by a mobile task force. 2. Bear-sized mammalian creature covered in razor-sharp spines, resembled an echidna. was virtually bulletproof but unable to escape the enclosure surrounding the pool, neutralized via napalm. 3. Black metallic sphere capable of levitation. Emitted concentrated levels of radiation and precisely directed beams, sufficient to instantly cripple and later result in death. Then Area Head Dr. Blank struck 354-3 with a sledgehammer, disabling it. 3 then self-detonated, causing minor structural damage and severely wounding the Doctor. The Doctor made a full recovery and has been commended for his bravery. 4. Humanoid reptilian creature, approximately 15 feet tall. Escaped both the walled enclosure and Area 354 altogether. Gunfire caused very little physical harm and was highly ineffective. Mobile Task Force Omega-7, Pandora's Box, was dispatched and was successful in neutralizing the creature. Aha! Hey, it's Omega-7. I think this is the first time I've seen them come up in an actual entry. 5 is data expunged. 354-6 appeared to be a human male of Indian descent. As the enclosure around the pool had not yet been fully repaired, 6 was immediately shot before it had a chance to escape. Area Head Dr. Blank has expressed his displeasure in the rash execution of 6, which testing revealed to be identical to an average human being. Data corrupt between 7 and 14. Majority of creature's body remained well beneath the surface of the pool. 5 octopus-like tentacles were seen emerging from the pool and reached up over the enclosure. Several D-Class personnel were grabbed by the tentacles and pulled back beneath the surface of the pool. After receiving massive damage from gunfire, 14 retreated back into the pool and disappeared. No personnel taken by the creature were recovered. 15. Feline creature composed of a blue-hued crystalline structure later revealed to be ice. Was able to jump above the walled enclosure and was agile enough to dodge most gunfire. Was actively hostile and mauled any personnel that engaged it. Subject engaged 16 upon its emergence from the pool and was terminated on sight. Terminated in the fight. Feline creature composed of a dark red blackstone later revealed to be partially solidified magma. Gunfire proved mostly ineffective against its hide. Was not hostile to personnel and did not attempt to escape walled enclosure until being engaged by 15. Successfully terminated 15 and grew less active as his body cooled. After fully solidifying having remained motionless since, subject was moved to Dr. Blank's office for aesthetic purposes. 18. Metallic humanoid machine described by several D-Class personnel as a Terminator. Subject possessed a cloaking device rendering it invisible to human eyes. Subject was highly adept at combat and killed nearly 90% of Area 354's guard personnel as it rampaged through the facility. Approximately 60 minutes after emerging from the pool, subject ceased function and powered down. Subject was dismantled and power cell was disposed of. Subject's remains are under study. Note from Area Head Doctor. That's thrice now that we've had to fall back on Pandora's Box to deal with the stuff coming out of 354. Abel can't complain though. You can tell he enjoyed fighting SCP-354-11. Maybe we should set up some kind of hotline to Omega-7? This one has a whole log. The exploration of Mission 354 Alpha. It's been 22 months since the last entity emerged from the pool. Before this, the longest period of time between emergences was 8 months. I suspect this means one of two things. Either the red pool has died, or powered down, or whatever the correct term for it is, or it's charging up for something big to come through. While 5 believes the former is the most likely explanation and has recalled 30% of our total personnel and cut 25% of our funding. While I can only hope that they are correct, if the latter situation is true, we're soon to face some terrible monstrosity, and we won't have anywhere near the force necessary to deal with it. I worry for all of our safety. In the morning of data expunge, the entire staff of Area 354 evacuated the facility. However, the staff also shut down power to the area and took a number of supplies and vehicles from the facility, indicating that the evacuation had not been done due to an emergency. Mobile Task Force Theta 12 was dispatched to investigate the cause of the evacuation and, if possible, make contact with area staff. However, before MTF Theta 12 could make contact with Area 354 or its evacuees, the area's on-site warhead was detonated, resulting in the destruction of the entire facility and the deaths of data expunged. MTF Theta 12 was ordered to make contact with the evacuated personnel and, in the event of hostility, was given clearance to terminate any uncooperative personnel. A large convoy of vehicles taken from Area 354 was spotted heading southward from Area 354 at high speed. Final audio logs from Theta 12 indicate that the convoy was made up of Area 354's staff, and that the previous chain of command had broken down in its entirety, with armed D-Class personnel and research personnel firing upon Theta 12. Data-12 was annihilated and no further contact with the former personnel of 354 has been made since. Following the total destruction of Area 354, the Red Pool containment site was constructed in its place. Basic maps of the new facility can be found in blank 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 and blank blank blank. Unlike the previous facility, which was focused on research and neutralization of entities emerging from 354, the new facility is devoted entirely to the containment of it and entities which may emerge from it, as well as any unforeseen forces which it may create directly. This is due largely to the advisement of the new site head Data Expunged, who believes that the events of Log 35420 were the result of a psychic or mental attack generated by 354 itself. Document 354-6, interview regarding Data Expunged. Is it alright if I record this? Yes, go ahead. Good, good. So let's start at the beginning. What happened at the Red Pool containment site? Looking back now, it seems strange that nobody ever suggested draining the pool. When the doctor came up with it, it seemed like such a good idea at the time. Exactly. What was about the idea was so appealing? It was a way out. That SCP entry, I've read what it says. It's a joke. It makes it seem like we have the pool under control. I take it you do not. There's a half-meter slab of reinforced concrete in place over the pool, and yet every time some beast tries to come through it, somehow it manages to get loose into the building. People die every single time. I've seen Data Expunged a man's own intestines. Can you imagine what that looks like, old man? So to you, and of course to the other people stationed at the Red Pool containment site as well, draining the pool seemed like a fine solution to the suffering caused by 354. Chair scrapes as the agent stands up. Suffering? That thing doesn't just... Please, sit down. This is going on record. Pause, agent sits. So, 05 approved the draining of 354, and then what happened? They evacuated the non-essential personnel to a location a couple of kilometers away, leaving just basic defense crew with the people who'd run the equipment. Mostly D-class, plus a few agents to keep things going. And you were among these agents. Yes. How did they go about draining the pool? Tech guys brought in this big pump thing with all these hoses. We retracted the slab, but... Have you ever had a dream where it seemed so real, but you knew you were dreaming, and it felt like you had to wake up to escape from it? I can't say I have. Yes, you have. We all have. That's what it felt like when they put the hose in to try to drain it. Everything stopped being real. It was like we had to escape right now. And you were the only one feeling this sensation. No, everyone had it at the same time. It came from the fucking pool! Please lower your voice. What happened when they activated the pump? We never did. We couldn't. It wouldn't let us. What wouldn't let you? The pool! Please, I ask you to lower your voice. Up until now, it's been content just throwing monsters at us. It's been playing. But now we have it locked up and we just tried to execute it. Now it's angry! Guards, please restrain the agent. My buddy measured its bank once and compared it to the photos from its first discovery. You know what he found? Guards, it's growing! The pool is growing, it gets bigger and stronger every day, and now we've made it angry! Get your hands off me! Sedate him, we'll continue this in the morning if he's lucid by then anyway. Okay then. Let me just drink some more soda before I find out whether or not the serrated lawn is another Keter. Did I say water? It's not water, it's root beer. Okay, it's Euclid. So yeah, this episode is just going to be Keter with guest star Euclid. Please keep off the grass. Part of the lawn of 355 prior to immolation. I don't remember what that word means. Let's Google it. It means sprinkled with sacrificial meal. Immolation always involves a sacrifice or offering of some sort. The word often evokes burning, a common method of sacrifice. Okay. All specimens of 355 are to be kept in a 5 by 5 meter plot off of ground in a small terrarium at Site 19 and watered daily. This section is to be kept with minimal air movement to prevent accidental release of seeds, and provided with standard atmospheric mixture 14. Dim red light is to be maintained in the room. Access to the room is to be granted by Dr. Feeswell, and might be Feiswell, and tests are to be performed under his supervision. All visitors are required to wear a thick-soled environment suit for the duration of the visit. The entrance to the room is to be secured with an airlock and fan system to prevent the accidental release of seeds. So what is it? SCP-355 is an unknown species indistinguishable to the naked eye from ordinary grass, but its nearest known genetic relation is the mahogany taxon. I don't know what that is, let's find out. mahogany. That it didn't really explain anything. Okay then. Pretty though. A hollow core of cellulose and Buckminster fullerene runs through the center of each blade to maintain the grass's vertical structure, and each vein in the leaf is sheathed a similar core, resulting in an unusually inflexible grass, sharp enough on the outside to pierce light wood and some plastics. The main blade performs photosynthesis and absorbs atmospheric nutrients as usual. Root structure is unusually deep for a short plant, but otherwise normal. However, the species seems to have developed in a low-energy environment, as photosynthetic rates under standard Earth atmospheric conditions are inordinately high and accelerate the species' reproductive cycle, causing rapid generation and dispersal of grass seed, each cycle occurring approximately once every 2 weeks. This hypothesis is supported by the passive carnivorism, similar to that of the sundew or cobra lily, also from environments low in nutrition. Any creature with insufficiently armored feet that tread on the grass suffers the penetration of their feet by the dense blades, a light liquefying acid, and subsequent drainage of bodily fluids through the hollow core. The plant simultaneously deploys sharp splinters from its edges in reaction to the sudden pressure, making it difficult for the victim to move away. Attempts to do so usually result in pulling the leaf from its root structure, resulting in continued siphoning through the severed stem, or at least severe laceration to the feet. In order to maintain the species in its containment chamber, the light has been dimmed to levels that prevent atypical growth patterns, and the atmosphere has been appropriately saturated with the necessary nutrients for proper development. 355 was first discovered by accident following the invasion of a storage facility used by the Chaos Agency Insurgency in someplace in Alberta, Canada, disguised as an ordinary if moderately secluded local residence. During the post-combat evaluations, several casualties were left unaccounted for until discovered on the front lawn, drained of their fluids and being slowly digested, near a wooden sign clearly labeled, "Please keep off the grass." The area covered by the plant was determined by the scattering of meat chunks, and a plot of ground was removed for study before the eradication of the remaining area. In this and subsequent encounters with Chaos Insurgency installations, 355 has been successfully destroyed by oxygen poisoning, heavy flame, anti-organic acids, and in one instance, a variety of commandeered domestic ungulates. SCP-355 seems to be negligibly affected by poisons, including data expunged, in the form of tainted meat, vaporous herbicides, or soil toxification. Memo: 355 was not among the SCPs stolen from the Foundation during its schism with the Chaos Insurgency, and was therefore acquired by them sometime after. Its origin is unknown, although documents seized during Redacted suggests it may have been one of several objects deposited by SCP-CI-103. Exploration Mission 354 Alpha. So... the killer grass that sucks out your innards may have come from the blood pool from the previous entry. How long is this? Our expedition to explore SCP-354, that gaping wound in the middle of Canada, has finally been accepted. The R&D boys have come up with what can only be described as a submarine with a drill on it. We know that the pool gets denser as you go down, so we suspect that at some point we won't be sinking so much as digging, hence the huge mining device built onto it. It's not hydrodynamic at all, but we're not really going swimming here. My gut tells me that there's something on the other side of the red pool, and just like digging down, up, to China, all we have to do is dig down, up, to it. Had a nice long debate with 05 Blank over who's allowed to come. I wanted Omega 7 to come with us for protection, or at least at 76, but they won't allow it. Despite the massive damages he continues to cause, I still see him as too valuable to risk losing. Not that he isn't, you know, immortal or anything. Maybe they just didn't have the guts to ask him to go exploring? Ackler, that ass, wanted us to take SCP Blank with us, but I wouldn't allow it. The file says that SCP was just born before he came through, so he'd be useless as a guide. He might be of some use as security, but that's mostly cancelled out by the fact that he's data expunged. He probably just blank anyway. The final crew complement, apart from myself, consists of 3 agents, 2 disposable dudes, 1 geologist, and some guy from R&D who's going to pilot the ship. I already forgot all their names. Mission log, day 1. Rotten sort of day to begin a mission. Rumor has it that last night there was a total containment breach in some area or other. Then it turns out that there's no coffee allowed anywhere inside Area 354 for some reason or another. And the whole mission almost ended in disaster when it turns out that they almost forgot to load the extra fuel on board. Who the fuck is running the show around here? Anyway, now we're underway. For a while there I had a definite feeling of going downward, but now we're dropping much more slowly. Marty, that's the R&D guy's name, says we're sinking at a rate of 10 meters an hour. Apparently at this depth the red pool is pretty damn dense. Day 2. Nothing of interest happened, but I learned everyone's names. We have Marty, our pilot, Agent Swanson, Agent Turquoise, Agent 86, Dr. J. MacArthur, Chris Simmons, and Leroy Tucker. Whoop-de-freaking-do! Day 3 at 4:30 a.m. gravity suddenly changed direction. Boy, that was a fun way to wake up. Now we're rising rather than sinking, which means we're more than halfway there. Day 4. We've reached the surface. Though through the portholes it's mostly dark, which means it's night. We can't go out yet because for all we know the atmosphere could be hydrochloric acid. We got a shitload of sensors outside the ship analyzing a bunch of stuff. Whether the air is breathable, what kind of airborne bacteria we have to deal with, and, you know, simple stuff like temperature. We'll know in 8 hours whether it's safe for human life out there. Turns out the air is totally safe, except it's been night for going on 28 hours now. What's going on? Dawn finally came, day 6. The sun was huge and red. I'm a biologist, but I know enough about astronomy to know that we're orbiting a totally different star. Is this a different time, a different place, or a different dimension? Leroy guessed that we're in another plane of existence, and I think he's probably closest. The pool on this side is way bigger, more like a large pond or maybe a small lake. The banks are more defiant than on our side as well. We took an inflatable raft to the shore. Marty and Simmons stayed behind and headed north. The ground here, or at least around the pool, is almost totally devoid of plant life. The only green we saw was a sort of fuzzy moss growing on the ground. It looked kind of like mold. The ground is grayish tan dirt that's like a mixture of sand and flour. MacArthur said it was some mineral or another, but I forgot what he called it. I half expected all of our electronics to not work out here, but that wasn't the first thing to fail. After about 2 hours of hiking across flat, boring ground, the compass suddenly changed direction. Now it points to what we previously thought to be east. Evidently this planet's magnetics, is it even a planet? Don't work the same way ours do. Not wanting to risk getting lost, we immediately made a 180 and headed back to the ship. I could have sworn that the trip back was less than half as long as the trip out. Tomorrow we'll work out a way of navigation that doesn't rely on the compass being sane. Day 7, lousy night's sleep. The sun never went down. By my calculations, the day-night cycle here seems to last about 43 and a half hours as opposed to 24 hours back home. That's going to take some getting used to. We agreed on a system of navigation. Firstly, we're going to travel in a straight line to make sure that we can get back to the ship simply by turning around and heading in the other direction. Unless we encounter some kind of unnavigable jungle, we should be fine. Secondly, Marty's rigged a radio beacon thing. I don't really remember its explanation, but if we're to get anywhere within 800 miles... if we're anywhere within 800 miles, this little gizmo will be able to tell us exactly which direction to go to get back, and how far. Day 9. We set out a few hours before the sun was scheduled to rise, but when we got to the shore we found that the green moss stuff was everywhere. It had grown in mass significantly. My guess is the stuff shrivels up in the sun during the day and expands at night to suck in nutrients or something. We decided we didn't want to walk through it, so we went back and waited for sunrise. Sun came up when we set out again. The moss stuff was back to a smaller state. It just occurred to me that there's been no wind at all in this place. The result is dead silence. I'm not ashamed to admit that the overall emptiness of the place is pretty scary. We found an area with none of the moss stuff for a few hundred feet around, so I decided to camp for the night. The sun's still up, but it's time for us humans to sleep, so I'm calling it night. Day 10. Sometime in the night, which was really daytime. Fuck, this is gonna get confusing. We're all woken by the sound of some kind of roar. You remember what the T-Rex sounded like in that old movie, Jurassic Park? It sounded a lot like that, big and reptilian. How dare you call it old? It's only from the 90s. It was so loud I was certain whatever was making it couldn't be more than 20 feet away, but when we all got out of our tents, we didn't see anything. The whole area is so flat, we'd see any sort of animal within a half mile or so, but there was nothing. Fucking scary. We packed up camp and continued on. After a while, we stopped seeing the moss stuff. Maybe it only grows around the red pool? And the ground became rockier. In the distance, the land seems to grow more hilly. I think I see trees. 11. The bare ground is ended. Now we're walking across a vast field of beautiful green grass. It almost looks like a well-mown lawn. The grass seemed ordinary enough until Turquoise tripped over a rock and rose to find his hands covered with several dozen bloody pinpricks. Apparently the tip of a blade of this grass is incredibly sharp and easily punctures skin. There's no threat to our Foundation issue boost, but we must be careful not to fall on it. We came to a tiny stream, really no more than a trickle. Swanson suggested we could refill our canteens, but Leroy and MacArthur wanted to check the water for something or other first. MacArthur took out some equipment and after a few minutes announced that it was not water, but liquid carbon dioxide. CO2 is usually a gas at this temperature and it's never a liquid. The laws of physics don't seem to be working right. Day 14. Haven't had time to record anything for a few days. We made it to an area sparsely populated by trees. The grass was withered and brown and not sharp enough to pierce the skin anymore. The trees were ordinary, but looked like birch, but the leaves were wrong. At some point, we lost Swanson. This place is so quiet that none of us really feel comfortable talking, so we have no idea when we lost him. There's a good 8-hour window where he could have gone missing. We called to him, but none of us wanted to split up to look for him. During the night, a tree fell on 86's tent. He wasn't hurt and none of the gear was damaged, although the tent got mangled beyond repair. 86 swears that the tree hadn't been that close when he pitched the thing, and none of us can tell what caused it to fall. The trunk just snapped. We all agreed not to pitch our tents anywhere near a tree from now on. The next day, which was really nighttime, we heard the same roar from a few days ago. It sounded exactly the same as before, and we have no idea what made the sound, and none of us can even agree which direction it came from. Then it started to rain. We all pitched our tents for the night, this time a whole lot closer together than we had before. The nearest tree is about 300 feet away. MacArthur confirmed it was actual rain and not more CO2 bullshit, and we set up this funnel thing to refill our canteens. Leroy donated his tent to Agent 86, and I offered to share mine since it's a little bigger than the other guys. I asked Leroy what he did to wind up as a D-class. He said he raped a couple of people. I think he might have been trying to freak me out, but who knows. Anyway, he's one of the most well-behaved D-class I've ever met, so I don't think he's gonna, say, assault me in my sleep. Good God, the rain has finally stopped! Everything is soaking wet, including us, except for the ground. After that much water, you'd expect it to be muddy as all hell, but the ground beneath the grass is barely damp at all. Maybe the plants absorb moisture from the ground more efficiently than the ones back home. We're setting out again. Perhaps the rain awakens some animal life. Data corrupt. Shinlog 25. What seemed to be a huge cliff in the distance turned out to be an artificially constructed wall. It's made of solid rusty iron and stands maybe 50 feet high? To the left and to the right it goes on farther than the eye can see. I can't imagine how thick it is. We have no way around it. We'll have to go over it or through it. We made camp for the night. We'll work out what to do in the morning. Day 26. Leroy J Reeves some kind of blowtorch thing with our equipment. I swear this guy is fucking MacGyver. We cut a hole in the iron wall big enough for us to go through. It turns out it's only about a quarter of an inch thick, but there's another wall behind it with less than a foot between. Apparently this thing has multiple layers. Leroy cut through 8 of them before we finally made it to the other side. The grass on this side is black, not burnt or anything, it's just a different color. And finally there's some wind. I was getting tired of data corrupt. Included that coming here was a mistake, we have to turn back. We passed through the second barrier, day 39. We passed through the second barrier, we're back to the weird place with the black grass. I half expected the whole Leroy to have sealed up back up or something, but it was still there. Thank God, whoever runs this show in this world. I don't think MacArthur's gonna make it through the night, he's lost a lot of blood. Day 40. We woke to find that MacArthur had crossed. We didn't want to do it, but we had no choice but to terminate him. 86 said that something back home might be able to help him, and he might have been right, but we couldn't afford to have us slow him down. We only have a few days into data corrupt. Day 48. We made it back to the ship with only an hour or two to spare. The first thing they asked us was what the fuck had happened to Swanson, Turquoise, MacArthur, and 86. As if a few dead team members are our biggest problems right now. Marty has us underway and we're definitely sinking. I just hope they don't... Data corrupt. End of log. This document was discovered in the Central Foundation database. No such mission to explore 354 has yet been suggested or approved. No records of any personnel mentioned in this log exist. The log's origin is unknown. Huh. Well, that's interesting. So, that does it for episode... Whatever the hell episode this is. 86, I think? Episode 86 of Let's Read the SP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, we're going to start with auto-interrogation and aim for ascendance. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all on the next one. Later!